Okay, well, here we are, ladies and gentlemen, the moment you've all been anxiously awaiting for. This is my documentation of the state of the Patagonia-Danner Foot Tractor sticky rubber wading boots after a total of 4 years of use. 4 years of heavy use under exclusively used for wading, wade fishing conditions. I've accumulated in the course of those 4 years a total of 501 miles of hiking. And that was over the course of a total of 139 trips, 48 of which were half-day trips, which I define as trips that last about 4 hours or less. And the rest of them were full-day trips, which are 8 hours, sometimes even more. A special treat today also, and unique, I think, amongst anyone reviewing these boots, is that I have for you a direct comparison with a brand new boot of the exact same type and size, so that you can see directly, side by side, how these boots compare after 4 years of use versus something right out of the box. Nobody's done that I'm aware of, to make it absolutely crystal clear to you what the differences are and how these boots age. So, the first thing I'll start off with is to give you a little close-up view, overview shot of the boot, each boot. In this case, I'll start with the right boot, as I usually do. So we'll just start here at the toe, zoom in. I'll take a moment here just to pause here and draw your attention to the condition of this boot at the toe of the boot. This is one place I note where there's significant wear. And by wear I mean this region here that they refer to as the welt, where the region of leather that's stitched down to the sole. And you'll see that on the toe here, which is one of the regions of the boot which receives the greatest wear, you'll notice that it seems to me that some of this leather here has been not just curled up here, but I believe it's been worn down and perhaps ground down a little bit. Let's slide over, compare with a brand new boot. Make that simple. See how much space there is here. Quite a bit of leather here. So if we, I'll just, since I'm on the topic here, the other point of the boot where there's the most wear that you'll see is near the heel. And it's not quite as bad as the toe, but you can see some evidence of the same sort of thing happening here. Here's the amount of welt that's present here. And by comparison, that's what you see there. That's what you see there. Significantly more welt present there. I'll even pull out a ruler so that you can look at that. So why am I showing you that? Well, these boots are recraftable, which means that Danner, when you ship them off to Danner, they can replace the sole. They can take off the sole of the boot, undo this stitching, stitch on a brand new sole for you. Doing so requires that they have enough space here on this welt to stitch it down onto a new boot, or a new sole, I should say. So if this part gets worn off, and there isn't enough space there to stitch through these holes, because I believe they reused the original factory holes to stitch that down, then the question becomes, or the potential, there is the potential there, that they would not be able to recraft them, and hence it would end the life of the boot. So this is a question, at least in theory, this is a question for me as to a problem that could arise with the longevity of these boots, and something that I hope to hear from Danner at some point, and how, whether this is a concern or not, or how they would address a situation like this. But to me, I'm not an expert on the manufacturing of Danner boots. I'm just a guy observing this and saying, this seems like it could be a problem. If we go along, just for the sake of, while we're on the subject of the welt, you see if we go along to the side of the boot here, that welt is, there's plenty of space on that welt, and by comparison to the new one, even though it's curled up a little bit here, there's still plenty of space there. I'll just try to measure it for you here. There's plenty of space there that you can see that they could sew on a brand new welt, or new sole. So, okay, so that's addressing one of the concerns I had about these boots, just jumping right into the state of something negative about them. Overall, I should say that the darn things have held up very well. The stitching has been remarkably perfect. I mean, there's not a loose stitch that I can find in the whole boot. And I'll go down here, and you don't have to take my word for it. I'm going to show you. So here we are, just working our way up side. Okay, now we'll just go along the edge of these boots and give you another look at the sides of these. Again, if you remember from past, if you have looked at past videos, and I encourage you to do so, I'm not going to reiterate everything I've said in the 2 previous annual videos that I've covered, where I've describe the condition of these boots at year 2 and year 3 of use. You're going to have to go back and look at those videos. I encourage you to do so for more information and detail on the background of the boots. I'll just follow up. This is a little crack in the boot and the midsole foam that I've noted before, and as in the past, as in last year, it hasn't grown any at all. That's most likely a result of a branch that jabbed into the midsole foam there and damaged it. This gouge was formed last year. Again, probably a branch that jabbed it. And as I've noted before, though, there's an internal control here in a way. The top half of the boots are usually covered by gravel guards, so they're basically well protected. And so these are almost like brand new, which I can show you again. thankfully, brand new boots side by side. You can see there's a little bit of cracking, of the leather here from wear and tear, but otherwise the boots seem in excellent shape, aside from scuffing. As I've noted before, the most scuffing on the toes, and second most scuffing here on the outside of each foot and on the heel. Excuse me. Now if we go to the sole of the boot, I encourage you again also to look at the written reviews I have of these boots that I post on the North American Fly Fishing Forum. There's a link to that thread in the description below. I'll give more details and more measurements of the different feature wear patterns on these boots than I can provide in these videos. But this will just give you an idea of some things that I can't easily cover by showing you still photographs. So one thing that you'll see on here, I did install some studs because as you can see the soles are well worn. They were nearly bald. Most of those lugs were nearly bald near the toe region here as of last year. Eventually I had to install these studs on here to try and augment the traction. These are cold cutter studs. You can look up, these are well-known studs for augmenting wading boots traction. They've been used for a long time by lots of people, and you can look elsewhere for information about them. If I run my finger along the side of them here, they still have some bite left on them. When I measure them, those studs have been worn down basically roughly 1/2 of their original height. Of course, that depends on where you are in the boot, but in the areas of highest wear, you can see I've worn right through the slot for the screwdriver to mount them. They did help a little bit with traction. They certainly helped during the winter time when I wore them, walking on ice. That helped quite a bit, actually. But these studs have had just 79 miles on them, so that's over the course of 20 trips. I walk on a lot of cobble during those trips, so it's understandable that they would have some heavy wear, but nevertheless, they wore out. They're wearing out at a pretty rapid rate. Had I not, were they not cheap, as cheap as they are, that wouldn't really be a particularly good deal. I wanted to just show you, just for those who haven't seen these side by side, the cold cutter stud there is black in the black, and on the left hand side, that is silver stud. That's the Patagonia stud, the factory stud that comes with the boots. You'll notice it's a beefier stud. The head is larger. The width of the screw and the threads are larger. It has more surface points on it, if you will. So more biting surfaces versus the cold cutter stud, which just has pretty much just has this slot down the middle. Surprisingly, as I noted in the written review, I didn't lose a single one of these studs from the boots. I originally mounted 8, and 8 are still on there. So I'm impressed with the holding capacity of these soles for studs, because you can imagine the way these studs are sticking out quite a bit from the rubber, especially when they're new. they would be highly susceptible to being ripped off, especially when you're a guy like me walking on cobble a lot of the time. That just didn't happen. So I'm impressed with the holding capacity of the studs by the soles on these boots. Okay, so that was the right boot. One other thing I wanted to show you, I guess I should show you, is the inside of this boot. Also in pretty good condition with respect to this right boot, except for, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to show it. Looks like it. I won't be able to show it to you very well, I guess. But there are holes that developed in the liner here. There, we can see them now. These holes developed in the liner in the Achilles region. They first started, the first signs of those happened last year. They expanded over the course of this previous season to become even larger. And that's a problem, just to continue on that theme. Now that we're moving to the left boot, that's a much bigger problem for this boot. The holes were much bigger, and I actually had to resort to suturing them to try and keep them from expanding further and be able to continue using the boot for the rest of this season. And basically, so back in January, as it was, or December, I actually sutured what were quite large holes here and by my thumb and over here on the right side of this left boot in the Achilles region. Some substantially large holes, and that was enough to kind of limp them through the rest of this last season. What you might also be able to see, I can show you a little bit here, probably best seen in the written reviews. There are also holes here down at the towards the bottom of this boot. Looks like I'm not going to be able to get a good shot of it for you. But right here near the bottom, which kind of translates to the inside of the heel / the arch. There's one of them, and there's the other one there to the right. Now you can kind of see them. Those two light areas on the bottom there, those are, again, two large holes on the liner on the inside of this left boot that just have expanded. They formed progressively over the last 3 years, really expanded over this last year. And that's basically a big determining factor regarding the life of this boot. Let's just give you another overview of this left boot. There you can see the rand, or the welt, I should say. Same situation as the right boot. That welt is on the toe here, where there's lots of wear and tear. It's shrunk a bit, and that's obviously a problem. It seems to me that it's been ground off during, by abrasion during the course of using the boots. One thing I can see here, there's a little bit of a right here, this spot here by my finger. It seems like this eyelet is got a little bit of wear on it right here by my what would be my finger right now. So that's something to be a little bit concerned about. But it doesn't look like doesn't look to me like the eyelet is quite in danger of being pulled loose. But that's something to, that's again a little sign of wear here to keep an eye on long term. hopefully I will be sending these back to Danner for recrafting. So hopefully they will have a look at that and make a determination of whether they need to reinforce that in some way. That looks like something that they should be able to repair if indeed it is something that is going to be an issue potentially at some future point. So again, as I've noted before, I'm not an influencer. I don't have any aspirations to be a YouTube star of any kind. I'm just showing you the condition of these boots, giving you some thoughts about them. You can do whatever you want with that information. If you think it convinces you to buy a pair, great. If you think it's crap, that's fine too. I don't care. Do whatever you want. I'm just trying to give you an honest opinion, no BS opinion and evaluation of a product, which is hard to find nowadays on this in this social media world that we live in. Yeah, so as you can see, again, same pattern. The top half of the boot is in really good shape. No sign of any of this hardware coming loose that I can see, other than that one eyelet here at the bottom on the inside of the left boot. Here, the very bottom eyelet. I showed you a glimpse of the inside of these boots. So one other thing I wanted to point out, laces. Here's an example of one of the laces, and again, same situation, same conclusions as before. Phenomenal laces on these boots. So if you look at just as an internal comparison here, this is the end of the lace, which is actually in really good condition, and compare it with down here, the part of the lace that is near the toe of the boot and receives the most wear and tear. You'll see that heavily worn, the most heavily worn areas of this lace are still in pretty darn good shape. There's some fraying there, but I don't have any sense that they're ready to break, and I don't have any sense that there's any specific localized wearing of the lace that corresponds to where the eyelets are located. So, overall, I'm blown away by, it may seem trivial, but I'm blown away by the laces on these boots. Fantastic, as they are on other Danner boots that are out there. And in fact, I'm going to keep these laces and put them in and continue to use them, because there's no reason not to do so. They're in perfectly good shape. So overall, what I tell you is that I remain impressed with these Patagonia-Danner Foot Tractor wading boots. You know, the traction has, as I've noted in my written reviews, the traction, we had to kind of limp them through this last year, but the studs helped do that. I couldn't wade in treacherous wading conditions using these, but I got enough wear and tear, or enough wear out of them to limp them through this last year, which was my goal, to make it through to 4 years with the boots, and we did. So the next step, as I said, as I've described in my written reviews, will be sending these back to Danner for recrafting, where they recondition the leather, they replace the soles, they replace the liners on them, and that's the whole point of these boots. As I note in my written review, I encourage you to read it. There's a number of other factors I discuss in there that I think are important considerations for whether these boots are right for you, and whether they meet all of the criteria that, in terms of the hype around these boots, that they're the last boots you'll ever buy. Will they last forever and be recraftable forever? I think that's still an open question. But having said all that, you know, so far I've been really happy with them. I've got my concerns and complaints that I've noted over the years, but overall they've been a damn good boot. And in regard to the stitching, the fact that the stitching is held up, has been bomb-proof all these years, is a real statement to the quality of manufacturing. And if nothing else, you know, probably the best endorsement I can give you is I bought another pair. These were I got them for a great deal. It just so happened there was a great fly shop that had a great deal on a great sale on them, so I couldn't turn it down. So that's I think that's about as strong as an endorsement as I could possibly give you. They're not. I don't think these particular boots can handle every conceivable wading condition that's out there. There's probably few boots that can, but they got a lot going for them in terms of durability, and I've got to give my at this point I've got to tip my hat to Patagonia and Danner for creating a pretty impressive product. I look forward to continue to evaluate them over time to see if they truly live up to being the last boot you'll ever buy. Thank you for watching. Again, please see the past videos. Please read the thread on North American Fly Fishing Forum, and best of luck to you.